It began with the sound of gunshots echoing through the quiet night. When officers arrived at the Hunter Square Apartments parking lot in Norfolk, Virginia, they found 2 lives lost, a young woman full of promise and her devoted mother, both victims of a brutal attack. But hours after the crime, police stumbled upon something that would deepen the mystery: $250,000 in cash hidden inside Alicia Hereford's car. Who placed it there? And what did it have to do with their tragic deaths? Norfolk, Virginia, a city known for its naval history and close-knit communities, became the epicenter of a chilling crime on March 12, 2021. In the heart of this tragedy were 23-year-old Morgan Bazemore, a young woman with aspirations of becoming a nurse, and her mother, 52-year-old Alicia Hereford, a beloved figure in her family and community. Their lives were intertwined, and so too was their fate, as both were gunned down in the parking lot of their apartment complex, sending shockwaves through their neighborhood. The discovery of $250,000 in cash hidden inside Alicia Hereford's car threw the entire investigation into uncertainty. Why would Alicia, a hard-working mother known for her dedication to her family, have such a large sum of money? Where did it come from? Was it connected to Morgan's personal relationships, or did it point to something even more unexpected, possibly tied to someone neither women could have foreseen? Why was it stored in her vehicle on the very night she and her daughter lost their lives? Could this secret hold the key to unraveling the events of that horrific night? Morgan Bazemore was a young woman with a spirit as bright as her smile. At just 23, she was full of energy and dreams, eager to start a career in nursing. For Morgan, nursing wasn't just a job she hoped to do, it was a way to make a real difference in the world. Friends describe her as someone who genuinely cared about others, always ready to lend a hand or a listening ear. Whether it was comforting a friend in need or volunteering at community events, Morgan's empathy shone through in everything she did. Morgan often talked about how rewarding it would be to work in healthcare. Her passion for helping others was the driving force behind her decision to pursue nursing, a field where she believed she could provide support and care during people's most vulnerable moments. She was, in many ways, a beacon of hope for those around her. Take a moment to think, someone who's always there to help, no matter how tough things get. Share their story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about the people who inspire you. At Morgan's side throughout her life was her mother, Alicia Hereford, a loving wife, a dedicated mother, and a supportive community member. Alicia was deeply involved in the lives of her family, including her husband, who stood by her side as a partner through all of life's challenges. Alicia's strength and warmth were evident in the way she approached both her work and her personal life. Professionally, Alicia was known for her commitment to helping others, having worked in social services to support individuals and families in need. She was someone who saw the best in people and believed in the importance of community. At home, she was a nurturing figure, the glue that held her family together. Her relationship with Morgan was particularly close. They shared not only a deep bond as mother and daughter, but also as friends who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Now, let's think about this. How important is it to have someone in your corner who believes in you unconditionally? Alicia was that person for Morgan. Do you have someone like that in your life? Tell us about them in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. Morgan and Alicia's connection went beyond the typical mother-daughter relationship. They supported each other, shared their dreams, and faced challenges together. They were an integral part of a close-knit family that valued unity and togetherness. But as with many families, there were underlying issues that brought their own set of challenges. Morgan was in a relationship with Kenyatta Jones, a 27-year-old man who had been a significant part of her life. Their relationship was characterized by ups and downs, periods of closeness interrupted by moments of tension and conflict. Friends and family members noticed the strain, and while Morgan often kept personal struggles to herself, there were signs that things weren't as they seemed. Alicia, aware of her daughter's situation, remained attentive and supportive. She and her husband were protective of Morgan, always ready to offer guidance and counsel. They sensed that something wasn't quite right in Morgan's relationship with Kenyatta. Alicia, with her experience in social services, could recognize the subtle signs of trouble. She was the kind of mother who stood by her children, ready to help them through any storm. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever faced a situation where you were worried about someone close to you but weren't sure how to help? What would you do if you noticed signs of trouble in a loved one's life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd like to hear your perspective on how to navigate those challenging situations. Morgan's vibrant life and the supportive environment she grew up in seemed to set the stage for a promising future. But beneath the surface, unresolved tensions were quietly building. The relationship with Kenyatta was growing increasingly complex, and Alicia, ever vigilant, kept a watchful eye on her daughter's well-being. It's unsettling to think about how sometimes the signs are there, but they can be so easy to overlook or dismiss. Do you think it's possible to see the signs of trouble before tragedy strikes? What would you look for? Share your thoughts below. These are important conversations that could make a difference. What lay ahead would be a series of events that neither Morgan nor Alicia could have anticipated. Their lives, so full of promise and potential, were on the verge of being shattered by circumstances beyond their control. As we continue, we'll delve deeper into their story, the events leading up to that fateful night, and the heartbreaking questions that remain. Stay with us as we piece together the unfolding tragedy and seek to understand what really happened. It was late at night when Alicia Hereford's phone rang, a call no mother ever wants to receive. On the other end was her daughter, Morgan Bazemore, her voice trembling with fear. She told her mother that her on-again, off-again boyfriend Kenyatta Jones had become aggressive. Morgan needed help, and Alicia didn't hesitate for a second. She reassured her daughter, telling her to stay calm, and that she was on her way. But what Alicia didn't know as she rushed to meet Morgan was that this night would end in unimaginable tragedy. Imagine getting that kind of call from someone you love. What would you do? Would you rush to help them? Or would you call the authorities first? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. This is a decision no one should ever have to face. As Alicia arrived at the Hunter Square Apartments parking lot, the scene was quiet. The dimly lit parking lot stretched out before her, the occasional flicker of a streetlight adding to the stillness. Alicia spotted Morgan, visibly shaken, with Kenyatta nearby. His body language was tense, his movements sharp. Alicia approached cautiously, her heart pounding but her resolve unwavering. She was here to protect her daughter, just as any mother would. It was evident that emotions were running high. Alicia, with her calm and steady presence, likely tried to de-escalate the situation, but no one could have imagined what would happen next. The air was shattered by the sound of gunfire, one shot, then another, followed by a rapid series of bangs. The noise echoed through the complex, waking residents and sending them scrambling to their windows. People peeked out cautiously, unsure of what they'd find. Some saw the aftermath, two bodies lying motionless on the cold asphalt. Others immediately called 911, their voices shaking as they described the horrific scene. When police arrived moments later, they were met with a devastating sight. Alicia Hereford and Morgan Bazemore were both on the ground, lifeless. Gunshot wounds had taken their lives in an instant. Officers quickly secured the area, wrapping the parking lot in yellow crime scene tape. But the weight of the tragedy hung heavy in the air. For their family, the news was devastating. Alicia's husband, Morgan's father, arrived at the scene only to learn that both his wife and daughter were gone. The grief was overwhelming, the kind that can't be put into words. Neighbors gathered nearby, some in tears, others frozen in shock. Alicia and Morgan weren't just faces in the community, they were people everyone knew and respected. Alicia, the devoted mother who would do anything for her family. Morgan, the bright young woman with dreams of becoming a nurse. How could something like this happen? And now, a question for you. If you were their neighbor or family member, how would you feel standing there that night, trying to comprehend the loss of two lives in such a senseless way? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd like to hear how you'd process something this heartbreaking. This case reminds us how fragile life can be and how quickly things can change. If you found this story compelling so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss updates on this case and other true crime stories. And if you're as invested in this as we are, leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. We want to hear from you because every perspective matters when trying to understand cases like this. Stay with us as we continue to unravel the events of that night and the unanswered questions surrounding the $250,000. What happened to Alicia and Morgan is a story that deserves to be told not just for justice but for their memory. In the wake of the tragic deaths of Alicia Hereford and Morgan Bazemore, detectives at the Norfolk Police Department faced a complex puzzle. A mother and daughter had been senselessly killed in the parking lot of their apartment complex, leaving a trail of heartbreak but also questions. Why had this happened? Was this a random act of violence? Or was it something far more personal? The first step for investigators was determining whether this was a random attack. Could it have been a robbery gone wrong? A case of mistaken identity? The possibility lingered briefly, but it didn't take long for detectives to shift their focus to a far more likely explanation. This was personal. The scene told them as much. There were no signs of a struggle or forced entry. Nothing of value had been stolen from either victim. And then there were the gunshot wounds, specific, deliberate, and close range. This wasn't the work of a stranger. Whoever had done this knew Alicia and Morgan. But if this was personal, who could possibly want them dead? Forensics at the scene quickly became pivotal. Investigators recovered several shell casings which were sent to the crime lab for analysis. The bullets told a chilling story. This was a calculated act, carried out with precision. But it wasn't just the forensics that built a case, there were witnesses too. Neighbors at the Hunters Square apartments reported hearing loud arguing just moments before the gunfire rang out. One witness described hearing raised voices, though they couldn't make out the exact words. But what stood out was what they saw afterward. A man fleeing the scene. That man, they would later claim, looked an awful lot like Kenyatta Jones. Detectives also reviewed surveillance footage from the apartment complex. While the grainy images didn't clearly show the shooter's face, they did capture a man of Jones's build and stature near the parking lot around the time of the murders. These pieces of evidence began to form a picture, and that picture pointed straight to Kenyatta. But then, there was the cash. When investigators searched Alicia's car, they discovered something completely unexpected: $250,000 in cash. It wasn't stuffed haphazardly into a bag or hidden away, it was neatly packed, almost as if it had been intentionally placed there. The presence of such a large sum raised immediate questions. Where had the money come from? And why was it in Alicia's possession? Was it tied to the murders? Could someone have been targeting Alicia and Morgan because of the cash? Or was it completely unrelated, a shocking coincidence that only added to the confusion? Detectives began exploring every possible angle. They looked into Alicia's financial records, her recent activities, and any potential ties to business dealings that could explain the money. They also scrutinized Morgan's relationship with Kenyatta. Could he have known about the money? Could it have motivated his actions that night? The possibilities seemed endless, and for every answer investigators found, more questions arose. What do you think? Could the money have been the reason behind this tragedy, or was it just a coincidence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective might just shed light on this mysterious piece of the puzzle. As the investigation unfolded, Kenyatta Jones became the prime suspect. His volatile relationship with Morgan was no secret. Friends and family had long been aware of the tension between the two. There had been arguments, jealousy, and moments of separation. But despite it all, they always seemed to find their way back to each other. To outsiders, it was a relationship that seemed troubled, but no one could have predicted it would end like this. Detectives dug deeper into Kenyatta's life, looking for anything that could tie him to the crime. It didn't take long for the evidence to start piling up. There were the witness accounts, neighbors who had seen a man matching his description fleeing the parking lot just moments after the gunfire. With mounting evidence, police brought Kenyatta in for questioning. But even as the wall seemed to close in, Kenyatta maintained his innocence, denying any involvement in the deaths of Morgan and Alicia. His demeanor raised more questions than it answered. Was he telling the truth, or was he a man trying to cover his tracks? Imagine being in that interrogation room, looking at the man who may have just taken the lives of a mother and daughter. What would you ask him? What would you want to know? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear how you think investigators should have handled this crucial moment. Stay with us as we unravel more of this complex case, diving deeper into the evidence and the trial that followed. If you've been captivated by this story so far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories. Your support helps us continue sharing the stories that matter. After a thorough investigation, police were confident that Jones was responsible for the double homicide that shocked Norfolk, Virginia. Witness accounts and surveillance footage all pointed to him. On the basis of this evidence, Jones was arrested and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and related firearm charges. The news of Jones's arrest brought some measure of relief to the community and the grieving family. But it was only the beginning. There was still a long road ahead, and the hope for justice was complicated by the challenges the legal system would face. As the case progressed, the courtroom became a battleground of emotions. Prosecutors worked tirelessly to establish the sequence of events and Kenyatta's role in the crime. Witness testimonies were critical, but they quickly ran into an obstacle that would shift the course of the trial. Key witnesses were too afraid to testify. Several neighbors had seen or heard parts of the crime, and their accounts could have provided vital details about what happened that night. But fear of retaliation kept many silent. This reluctance left the prosecution with a limited ability to introduce crucial evidence, including some surveillance footage, which needed corroboration from eyewitness accounts. The prosecution attempted to shed light on Morgan and Kenyatta's volatile relationship, hoping to show the escalating tension that had tragically culminated in violence. They painted a picture of control, jealousy, and emotional abuse in an environment that Alicia Hereford had long worried about as a protective mother. Adding to the tension were emotional statements from Alicia and Morgan's family members. In heartbreaking testimony, Alicia's husband described the depth of his loss. He spoke about the love and laughter that filled their home before the tragedy, and how his world was shattered in a single night. Morgan's brother shared memories of a young woman full of dreams, robbed of her chance to fulfill them. But despite these emotional moments, the case faced significant hurdles. Without the support of key witnesses, the evidence alone wasn't enough to guarantee a conviction for second-degree murder. The prosecution found itself cornered, forced to make a difficult decision. In a move that would shock the victim's family and community, prosecutors offered Kenyatta Jones a plea deal. Jones would plead guilty to 2 counts of voluntary manslaughter, a much lesser charge than second-degree murder. The plea deal carried a maximum sentence of 8 years in prison, with an additional 12 years suspended under conditions, including no contact with the victim's family and a period of supervised probation after his release. On March 3, 2023, just days before the trial was set to begin, the plea agreement was accepted. And on July 14, 2023, Jones was sentenced. For many, this was not the outcome they had hoped for. The victim's family was devastated. 8 years for the deaths of a mother and daughter felt like an insult. Alicia's husband expressed his disbelief, saying the sentence could never reflect the magnitude of their loss. For the family, the justice system had failed them, offering what they felt was a minimal punishment for a crime that had shattered the ways. Public outrage echoed these sentiments. Community members were furious at what they saw as a failure to deliver justice. The story of Alicia and Morgan became a rallying point for discussions about how the legal system handles cases of domestic violence and the challenges of ensuring accountability when witnesses are afraid to come forward. Prosecutors defended their decision, explaining that without witnesses, securing a conviction for second-degree murder was nearly impossible. Commonwealth's attorney Raman Fatehi stressed the need for a robust witness protection program, highlighting how fear can paralyze the justice system and force difficult compromises. But even with a conviction, one major question loomed over the case. What about the $250,000 found in Alicia Hereford's car? The neatly packed cash was a mystery that remained unsolved throughout the trial. Investigators were never able to determine its origin or its connection to the crime. Was it a motive? Or was it just a strange coincidence in an already tragic story? The unanswered question about the money continues to haunt the case. To this day, the origins of the cash and its role in this horrific crime remain a mystery. This case left behind more than grief, it left behind questions that still echo in the minds of those who knew Alicia and Morgan. How can the justice system do better in protecting witnesses? Should plea deals like this be acceptable when 2 lives have been lost? The loss of Alicia Hereford and her daughter, Morgan Bazemore, left a deep void not only in their family but also in the Norfolk community. A mother and daughter, loved and cherished, were gone far too soon. But in the wake of such a tragedy, their family and friends were left to pick up the pieces, asking questions that had no simple answers. How do you move forward when the people who meant everything to you are taken in such a cruel way? And how do you honor their memory while grappling with the pain of their absence? For Alicia's husband and Morgan's siblings, the grief was immeasurable. Alicia had been the heart of the family, a devoted mother, wife, and community advocate who made everyone feel cared for. Morgan, at just 23 years old, was the family's bright spark, full of promise and dreams of becoming a nurse. Losing them both in one horrific night felt like an unbearable weight. In the days following their deaths, family members leaned on each other, searching for strength in shared memories. They held vigils, lighting candles and sharing stories about Alicia and Morgan. Friends spoke of Alicia's warmth and strength, her ability to make everyone feel valued. They remembered Morgan's laughter, her kindness, and her determination to build a life helping others. Let me ask you, if you lost someone close to you, how would you honor their memory? What would you do to ensure their legacy lived on? Share your thoughts in the comments. The ways we remember our loved ones often bring healing and connection. Have you ever taken a painful experience and turned it into something positive? How did it help you heal? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories of resilience and strength. As we reflect on this tragedy, it forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Domestic violence is far more common than many realize, and its warning signs are often dismissed or ignored. Morgan's relationship with Kenyatta Jones had shown signs of trouble, arguments, jealousy, and possessiveness. Alicia, ever the protective mother, had noticed the tension and tried to support her daughter. But sometimes even the closest bonds can't prevent an escalating situation. Let's take a moment to think about this. What are the red flags of a dangerous relationship? Do you know what to look for? And if someone you cared about was in a similar situation, how would you help them? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is an important conversation, and your input could make a difference. The deaths of Alicia and Morgan remind us of the importance of vigilance in education. Knowing the signs of an abusive relationship like isolation, control, or verbal aggression can save lives. It's why resources like the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, exist, providing confidential support to anyone in need. No one should feel trapped or alone. Have you or someone you know ever reached out for help in a tough situation? What advice would you give to others who might be afraid to take that first step? Let us know in the comments. You never know who might read your words and feel inspired to seek help. Alicia Hereford and Morgan Bazemore left behind a legacy of love, kindness, and compassion. Their deaths were a devastating loss, but their family has worked tirelessly to ensure that their story isn't forgotten. Through community events, activism, and education, their lives continue to inspire change. As we close this chapter, let's take a moment to honor their memory by committing to being more aware, more supportive, and more willing to act when we see someone in need. If this story has resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps us share stories like Alicia and Morgan's, raising awareness and encouraging action to prevent tragedies like this. And remember, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, there is help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE, 7233. You are not alone. Let's keep this conversation going and work together to create a world where everyone feels safe, valued, and loved.